This migrant caravan that's coming in from Honduras and coming in through Mexico, it's not new. It's actually an annual thing. There's an organization, People Without Borders, that regularly transport and conduct this caravan to bring attention to Central American migrants who are forced to flee their homes and seek refuge, at points north. It's been going on since 2010. And since these migrants enter in such a grand fashion with this march, and it's so irregular and it's open and obvious, they should be subject to, immigration enforcement by Mexico. But Mexico, and their strong immigration laws that President Trump has been highlighting, has not made any mention of any sort of enforcement action in previous years. And it seems like this year, they're not doing the same thing. They're actually offering asylum to those who qualify for asylum. So, here we go, folks. Here's the issue that President Trump has been campaigning on since 2015. Has been talking about for a long time. An area where he had some major successes in his first year in cutting down the traffic of illegal immigrants through the southern border. And he is being tested by this caravan now to see exactly what his reaction would be. And so far his reaction has been the red meat that his people love. President Trump is rallying his base again. He wants people to look at this issue with the same eye they looked at it back in 2016. Here come more people into our borders, a greater burden on our economy, taking away jobs from Americans that are still looking for jobs, even though the job numbers are good, and campaigning on the same issue he was before. This isn't a coincidence, folks. While you may be a Trump fan, or maybe you're not a Trump fan, or maybe you're a liberal, the goal today is to recognize the politics at play in the chessboard that is American politics. You saw the move by the left with the Parkland shooting and the marches and the mobilization of these teens that are pushing for gun control, even though they don't know what gun control really is. Kind of a misstep by the left. And you see the counter to that by the NRA in pushing to get their membership up and their numbers skyrocketing, their finances skyrocketing, and their base becoming mobile. Now you see the same thing with immigration. Democrats are pushing the immigration front. President Trump is highlighting this caravan of migrants to push his agenda, with the goal again being to motivate the base. And this is all pointing at 2018 and the midterm elections, folks. Again, you can have your opinion on the issue. And there are conservatives out there with differing opinions. And we're going to talk about that after we talk to Nick Polce later on the show. But don't be a spectator for all this. Be a participant. Recognize the chess pieces that are being moved here and the game that's at play. And when you recognize the game that's at play, you can have a better understanding of where you should stand within the game. So we're going to take a quick break, but before we do, I want to thank everybody for listening to Behind Enemy Lines Radio. I'm Gene Baradelli. Russ Gallo, my main man, my partner in crime, the wind beneath my wings, whatever you want to call him, is off today. Mainly because I'm doing the show and didn't really get him on the line. It's kind of my fault, but whatever. I'll make it up to you, Russ. Thanks for listening to the show. Check us out at www.behindenemylinesradio.us. Check us out on the Facebooks and the Twitters at BEL_radio. And if you missed any part of the show, don't worry. You can always catch us on one of our rebroadcast outlets, including WJHC Talk 107.5 FM in Jasper, Florida, WDDQ 92.1 FM Adel, Georgia, and WLBB News Talk 1330 AM in Carrollton, Georgia, all a part of the Talk America Radio Network. You can also catch us on ICRN, the Internet's conservative radio network, which powers the Talk America Radio Network. They're the engine that keeps everything moving from web to the airwaves. Big shout out to Ron Phillips for that and all the great work he does. You can also check us out at KLRN Radio, Lone Star Talk Radio and Sackheads Media, Lanterns Radio at lanterns.buzz, and our newest home, our newest affiliate. Welcome everybody, Eye to Eye Talk Radio. You can check them out online at eye2eyetalkradio.blogspot.com, or just click the link on our network listings at www.behind-enemy-lines-radio.us. But if you didn't miss any part of those rebroadcasts, don't sweat it, because we got lots more ways for you to listen to the show. We're available as a podcast on many outlets, including iTunes, Spreaker, TuneIn, Stitcher, Podbay, Player FM, Google Play Music, SoundCloud, Auto Radio, and of course the mighty iHeart Radio. I get a little choked up every time I say that. We're actually on iHeart Radio. That's pretty darn cool if you ask me for this little rinky-dink show we do out of my house here. And speaking of that rinky-dink show, we'll be back in a little bit. When we come back, we'll be talking to Nick Polce, who's taking on Speaker Paul Ryan in a primary in the 1st District of Wisconsin. You'll find out who he is, what he stands for, and what he intends to do if he makes it past that monumental task. Gene Baradelli, Behind Enemy Lines, will be back right after these brief words. If you're a long-time listener of the show, or maybe this is your first time listening, you can probably tell that me and the gang here, we like to have our share of fun, whether it's on or off the air. We talk about 2-drink minimum radio and no medication Wednesdays or whatever day it may be. That's why when we found the people at Less Government, More Fun, we knew it was a match made in heaven with this show. Folks, we live in a time where government is out of hand. Our founding fathers did not intend government to be all-consuming in all parts of our lives. That's why we are telling you to go to lessgovmorefun.com, check out the website, check out the swag. What the people want is less government, more fun. Pass it on, make it happen.
Who might you save?
Your mother, your father, your husband, uncle, aunt, son.
Learn FAST, F-A-S-T, the sudden signs of a stroke, and you could save.
Your friend, teacher, boss.
F, face drooping. A, arm weakness. S, speech difficulty. T, time to call 911. F-A-S-T. That's F, face drooping. A, arm weakness. S, speech difficulty. T, time to call 911. The sooner they get to the hospital, the sooner they'll get treatment. And that can make a remarkable difference in the recovery of
your neighbor, the waiter, grandmother, grandfather.
So learn FAST, the sudden signs of a stroke, then pass it on, because you never know who might save you.
Your wife, your colleague.
Spot a stroke fast. Visit strokeassociation.org. Brought to you by the American Stroke Association and the Ad Council.
Behind Enemy Lines Radio is all about being right. No, seriously, it is. If you ever listen to Russ Gallo or me go back and forth on some issue, we always want to make sure that we remember who said what and when we said it. That's why we go to goonrecord.com. It's a brand new social media website. Challenge people on what they believe, whether it's in politics, sports, entertainment, finance, whatever. There's a category for you at goonrecord.com. Check it out right now. Tell us, what do you stand for? It's time for you to go on record. Behind Enemy Lines. Back on the air. Gene Baradelli, back behind Enemy Lines. Joining us on the line right now, we have a gentleman you may not have heard of yet, but he's looking to make some noise in what's going to be a big race in 2018. He's a father, he's a husband, he's a businessman, and a veteran who has decided to take on one of the biggest Republicans in Congress, in fact, the Speaker, in the 1st District of Wisconsin. I'm talking about our new good friend, Nick Polce. Nick, how are we doing, sir?
Hey, Gene, I'm doing well. Thank you. Thank you for having me on.
So listen, we met through a good friend of the show, Jason Beardsley, who we've worked with. He's, of course, Concerned Veterans for America. And, you know, any friend of his is a friend of the show. But I got to ask, why this battle of all battles?
All right, so the problem I see, Gene, is that there's a myth right now that the political class is indispensable for the governing of this country. And so if we're going to change that, we really have to go after people that have been there their whole career. And Paul Ryan is one of those guys. He's been there 20 years as an elected official. Prior to that, 6 years as a staffer. Whole adult life in Washington. And the greatness of this country is not found in Washington. It's found scattered throughout the 50 states and the 300+ million people.
Well, I definitely agree with that, and I think we'll agree also that Donald Trump's victory taught us that there is an electorate, especially in your neck of the woods, that will definitely respond to a message of getting rid of the political class. But Paul Ryan was originally elected as part of that Tea Party wave during the Obama years. What has changed about Paul Ryan that he is now transitioned from, Tea Party guy to now he's a part of the establishment political class?
Gene, just one quick thing on that. So he was elected back in '98 was when he first came to Washington.
See, yeah, I should have done my research. There you go.
No, it's quite all right. And the thing that appears with Mr. Ryan in particular is he changed along the way. And I think that comes to spending way too much time in Washington, because what happens is you forget, what you're there for, what your job is, and you start to make decisions based off your own self-interest and trying to get reelected.
It goes to show you, I didn't even realize he's been around that long. My awareness of him was really when he came to the forefront during the Obama years. That's very interesting.
Right.
So
right.
Let's talk about your background a little bit. Of course, we talked about that you're a veteran. You were actually a Green Beret, so thank you very much for your service. You were deployed overseas 8 times in various spots around the world.
Yeah.
The stories you have to be amazing.
Well, yeah. So just really quick, I enlisted shortly after I graduated college in 2002. I was a senior when the towers came down, and that had a big impact on my life, as I'm sure it does for everybody in their different parts of their life when that happened. And so I wanted to go join the military, but specifically join the U.S. Army Special Forces to earn that Green Beret, to take the fight to the enemy. And so based on, I was humbled and honored to serve with the best men and women during that time. But yeah, you're right, multiple deployments. It really gave me an inside look at foreign policy and monetary policy from the way the federal government spends money. Really unique insights based off of a lot of the missions and a lot of the interactions we had with the different agencies.
Right, and the one thing from speaking to a lot of servicemen and women, of course, my co-host who couldn't make it, Russ Gallo, is he's on reserve duty right now with the New York National Guard, is that guys who have experience overseas, and especially in special forces, they're problem solvers. They know that they have what they have to deal with, and they have to be more creative to be able to get the job done, especially in harsh environments. If there was ever a skill set that was needed in Washington, which may be, considered a harsh environment, it's that skill set.
Yeah, you're right. And that problem solving thing that you're thinking about, where you're overseas and you have what you have. You can't just tie back into the massive supply chain, because sometimes it takes too long to come, or you just don't have it. You gotta find what the actual fundamental underlying problem is and focus on that. And that's one of the things I like to do when I get to Washington, is to focus on the actual problems instead of getting distracted by all the other challenges and all the other things out there that are not addressing the underlying problems.
Right. Now it's been my experience, Nick, that when we talk about government and we talk about the political class, it seems like people always enter with the best of intentions, but then there's something about that culture of corruption that turns good people inward, and they start worrying about themselves rather than what they're doing there. Yeah. What do you see that needs to be changed there? What is one, whether it be term limits, whether it be any sort of ethics regulations or anything like that? What do you see that is needed in Washington that would be an immediate fix?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Because what happens is you get there and you start to get comfortable, and then you get reelected a couple times, and you feel like, I like this. I don't want to leave this environment. You're absolutely right. So if there was going to be one single thing that we could do, it would be term limits. And one of the things that we're pushing is 6 years. 6 years in the House and 6 years in the Senate. And I know that is not something that one person can do on its own, on their own, like me going there. So I feel like I'm part of a larger freedom movement, where there's a lot of different men and women in different districts across the country that are running with a similar vision to get to Washington and to start to put things in place like a term limit, where that it forces you to work for a few years and then leave. And I think that will go a long way. But it's not simply